Hello and welcome to Back to the Boardroom. I'm James.
And I'm Greer.
And we are at the interviews. We're nearly there, the penultimate week.
And one of the best weeks, arguably. It's such a good episode when they get ripped apart.
Yeah, although ripped apart with a difference, which I think we'll dive into later on.
Definitely. It didn't have the same edge as some previous years, I don't think.
Shall we start by going through the candidates' business plans?
Yes. One thing I want to say about the business plans is that I didn't really enjoy the sort of fake holding on to a business plan that is definitely not their real business plan, and it's been binded or bound in that weird sort of old-fashioned, I don't even know what it's called, but it just looked very fake. And the fact they had just black font on a white bit of paper being like, Anissa's business plan, just so it could be seen in the shot, looked a bit shoddy, to be honest.
I think they did. They've done that before. And yeah, I know what you mean. It's very school-esque.
Yeah.
Like, it's the binding with the, it's like a what do you call it?
It is like a plastic grip. I don't know.
Cone or whatever it's called with the like rectangle holes. This
yes.
is great.
Yeah, they could have had something more professional. They could have had a slick folder or something, but no, they just did a few black and white printouts.
But what I did notice, unlike other years, you know, we've got a bit of Jordan was highlighting with some storyboards. Chizola was using an interactive whiteboard. Spiced it up a tiny bit.
It did. I like that sort of initial going through their plans, seeing a bit more about them as well, because it is the week that we get to find out about them more as people rather than just the ruthless candidates that they have been. So we got to hear a bit about their families and see some of them and hear a bit about their motivations for actually joining the process to begin with, which was quite nice, even though they did have a few strange moments that I'm sure we'll go through.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be The Apprentice without a plethora of moments. Okay, shall I start? So
yes.
We'll start with Anissa. So her business plan was essentially wanting to grow her pizza business, which is a fusion of Italian and Indian. I think the base was very much standard, but the main selling point was the toppings, the Indian-inspired toppings. And she currently has a single dark kitchen and wants to expand that into, I think she put it as a brick and mortar store.
Yes. I mean, I really want to try one of her pizzas, just because I think it's an interesting fusion and I wonder how it would go. I really like the idea of dark kitchens. I know it's a bit controversial sometimes, but as a business sort of idea, I think they're quite good. But maybe a couple of years ago, I feel like that is something that Deliveroo and Uber Eats and Just Eat or whatever, they've been around a while, and this sort of thing was happening maybe in like 2018 or something. So I don't know if she's, got a good idea and it's working out well, but maybe she should focus on the product a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we'll get into it later, some of the comments around innovation to do with that. We move on to, I believe, Amber Rose and her business idea. So she owns a convenience store but wants to open up a bubble tea store and ultimately go for franchises, I believe.
Yeah. I haven't had bubble tea still to this day, but it is apparently very addicting, very sugary, and it is popular.
I have to admit, my only first and only ever bubble tea I was gifted by someone, so I could try it, and I felt bad drinking it because it was disgusting, and all I wanted to do was throw it away, but I had to endure it because I didn't want someone else's money to go to waste.
That is the sign of a good friend.
Yes. But yeah, I guess her USP was this split cup design where you have the
Yeah.
2-straw approach.
I quite like that. The double flavours, that's fun. You could see that really catching on. It could be, you could see kids and teenagers loving that as well. But yeah, was it really a USP?
Yeah, well, technically quadruple flavour, because I believe, well, at least the bubble tea I had, you've got the tea being one flavour and the tapioca ball being a burst of other flavour.
Yes.
So I guess there would be 4.
That is true. A flavour explosion then.
Exactly. I'm not a bubble tea expert. I've had one, didn't like it. So
I've had none. So we need a
quote
bubble
me.
tea correspondent or something.
We move on to Chizola, and very much tech themed here. So Chizola wanted to create basically a matchmaking app, but instead of romantic matchmaking, it's business matchmaking. So where your entrepreneurs and your investors meet, I guess, and potentially start a healthy business relationship.
I think it's an interesting one. It's good to have a tech idea. I did think, though, that, I don't know, that dating apps is sort of what she was basing it on. So business seems to be very professional, dating apps not so. So I felt like there was a strange, a mismatch, I think is the word I'm going for.
Interesting idea, though. Not sure how it would work in practice. We move on to Dean, and I think we all knew what Dean's business was from day one. The air conditioning installation business.
Yes, the sort of most straightforward sounding one, but actually, part of me thinks he's onto a bit of a winner there with the fact that everybody is going to need air conditioning in their homes or wants it after our very hot summers. So, who knows?
Yeah, indeed. And it's definitely not, the need for that is definitely not going away.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, we have Jordan, who wants to open up his own 3D animation studio.
Yeah, which again is interesting. He's an artist. He's someone that has learnt his skills through the freelance market and used tutorials and YouTubes. Wow, I'm old. YouTube to upskill himself, and that's something that a lot of people are doing and are making good money from it, but we haven't really seen a candidate like that on The Apprentice before.
Definitely, and a great testament to, you really can do anything if you put your mind to it.
So now we know what their businesses are all about, I think we need to dive into the interviews because they are so good every year, and this year there are a few cracking moments that I think we need to go through. Who do you want to start with first? Should we go through, because they all had excellent moments?
I want to end with Claude, because I love Claude. Let's start with Linda. But before we do, I want to just say that one of my moments is not about one of them in particular. It's about the whole process. And this year, I did think it was a much better mix of positivity and negativity.
Yes.
I think every advisor had something good to say at one point, which is nice to see. These people didn't make it all this way for nothing. They obviously have something about them. So it was nice to see more positive aspects put in.
Yeah, I think so. It's known for being the episode where they are sort of made a fool of themselves, which I do love, but it was more tame this year. But just thinking about it, as you were saying that, we don't really get that level of sort of shaming, I can't really think of the word, on TV anymore, much like when we used to have Britain's Got Talent or The X Factor or something. Simon Cowell used to really lay into people and it was hysterical, but I think we've probably learned a bit more now about being kinder to everyone, because we are all human at the end of the day, and there was an element of that in the Apprentice interviews this time, which, you're right, it was nice, but part of me does miss the absolute slating of the ideas. But I can watch reruns on YouTube or something.
Indeed. So if we're starting with Linda, what's your top Linda moment?
There are too many moments that we could go through. I feel like they all had some excellent comments to say this time. I don't think I can pick a Linda one. She is one of my favourite people to come out of the woodwork in The Apprentice. Do you have one to start us off with?
I do. So
Okay.
this was interviewing Dean, and they were talking about the Dean's lack of vision, I guess. And the quote is, "Lord Sugar needs to know what's bloody around the corner."
Yes,
That was
know.
to do with like the emergency fund or something. Yeah.
That was an interesting thing, though, that he was saying that he'd spend some of the money on a showroom and then would just save some of it because you don't know what's going to happen, like a safety net. And I thought, no, you can't do that with your investment. You have to invest it in your actual business. You can't just leave it in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah, an interesting play there. Yeah, but that was my top Linda moment.
So in your note-taking, you have written down the interviewers and their top moments, but I was writing down the candidates and their top moments. So I'm going to have to move on and say Dean, because we've had a good one with Linda, but I think there were some moments where he probably regrets doing some things in the past that were very funny. But one thing I do want to say is when he was trying to discuss why people would want air conditioning and why his idea was going to be a successful business for Lord Sugar to invest in, he really struggled to actually articulate why people would need air conditioning. So he was saying about climate control, which I think he got confused as with sort of in-car climate control or something. He was thinking of climate change, but then he said the climate zone is depleting, which I really enjoyed.
I thought the producers did him a dirty there. I think he definitely knows what he's talking about. I think it was probably nerves.
I think so. I think when you just forget the word.
Yeah, but it did. It was quite a funny moment.
It was a funny moment. And was it in the same interview where that worrying photo came up, which we have to talk about because I do think it's my favourite moment of the whole thing, is Dean was installing some air conditioning in an adult store and obviously thought it would be funny to stick one of the adult products onto the air conditioning unit, take a photo of it and put it on social media. And of course they found it. Of course. I don't know if that's professional or not. It's funny, but if you're going for The Apprentice, maybe take it down.
Yeah. Mike is a terror. He finds everything. But yes, phallic objects on aircon units.
I wonder how much time Mike takes off because he went on a little trip. He went to find a bubble tea store. He ate the pizza. He obviously scrolled on social media for a while. Mike must take annual leave at this time.
I hope he's expensing Lord Sugar.
I hope so too. For one bubble tea.
Indeed. And to keep on your theme with candidates instead of advisors, I guess the last thing I would say about Dean is it was a wholesome moment. It was Claudine actually generated quite a lot of wholesome moments, but basically brought out that it's all about his family. So doing it for his family and next generation, and thought that was one of my top moments.
Definitely, that was nice to see his motivations, and very sweet as we saw him talking to his family earlier in the show as well. Chisola, she also got quite emotional about her mum with Claudine. Claudine was obviously tasked with doing the sort of background check in the episode, as she did talk a lot to the candidates about their personal lives. But yeah, Chisola did get a bit emotional as well. I think she was the only person that had some tears this year.
Yes, but good tears, positive tears. Keeping on your theme with Chisola, I think a top moment was, again, from Mike. How much experience do you have with dating apps? And then Chisola starts responding, I mean professionally.
That was a good bit. I've noted down from Claude, he started off on a great foot with Chisola, saying, "Your whole proposition is absurd," and then said, "You're going to try and convince me, but you're not going to be able to." Loved that. Claude is the best.
Absolutely. Moving on to, I think I'm going to pick Anissa. And we'll start with Linda. I'll let you have Mike. Linda was all about lots of fresh air. You know, basically, you're making up loads of stuff. You're intelligent. Why are you doing this?
Yes, there seemed to be a theme, didn't there, with Anissa this time. She's obviously very clever, very intelligent, and has a lot of sort of academic qualifications because everyone seemed to be impressed by her. She speaks over 4 languages, and I thought her comment about wanting to be her own boss and actually wanting to be a mother was interesting, because usually you don't tend to hear women sort of talk about planning for families in their life around their business. I thought that was quite a refreshing thing for 2025 as well. But you're right, Anissa, in her chat with Mike had obviously gone down to her business, and while the chef had no idea that the order had come in, which isn't great, but that's the chef's problem, I guess. He was thrilled with the pizza, kept saying it was a 5-star pizza. I want to know what he ordered, and I wanted to see a little video of him eating it like he did that initial video. Yeah,
absolutely. Mike does make some good moments, indeed. We move on from Anissa to Amber Rose. And again, I'll go with Mike. I'll go with Claude. He couldn't fathom why Amber Rose stopped selling the bubble tea. And she gave a very interesting answer of, "I didn't have enough space."
Yeah.
Or something like that. But it was doing well, or he was very confused why you would do that and how that would kind of hurt the prospects of the product.
My top moment for Amber Rose was also in that interview, because she was pulling some interesting faces throughout everything Claude was saying. She did sort of scrunch up her nose a bit and was trying to, I guess, work out how to defend her business, or at least think, how can I justify why we stopped selling it? But it's a good point from Claude. I don't know if it was going well. Then there really must have been a sort of logistics reason as to why she couldn't upscale that and keep it going.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we mentioned Mike with Amber Rose earlier, so I'm going to say my last one is Linda's not outburst, but she was like quite offended. "Do not compare bubble tea to a coffee chain."
It's a good point. They are different beverages, but she did go a bit mad, I'll be honest, on that. Maybe she's a big coffee fan.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe some shares in Costa or Starbucks.
Yes.
Yeah. And then finally, we have Jordan. Do you have a top moment from his interview?
Yes, I thought it was really interesting how it was discovered that Jordan had been creating speculative pieces of work for big name clients and putting it on his website. So his website was really sort of a portfolio of work that he could do, and I guess he's 21, so that is probably what you would have if you are trying to start a business and you're mocking up things. You would have sort of projects that you'd been working on, but I think he let himself down, I guess, with not writing on his website saying this is a speculative design or something, and it did, for potential clients, it did make it look like he had worked with Nike and Aston Martin and the big names.
Yeah, indeed. Not. I guess you can do that as a designer, but it didn't go down too well in this case. And I guess my moment for Jordan is Linda was gobsmacked at how he would be paying £18,000 for a junior animator, which seems rather cheap.
That is cheap. I'm trying to think of minimum wage and stuff. I think that's cheap. Although she said even a junior intern would be paid 26,000. I think, well, where's that then? When I was an intern, I was not getting paid that, and I definitely didn't get paid that when I was starting off in my career. So yeah, well, I should have had some more guidance from Lord Sugar and Linda, because
Should have been Linda's intern.
Oh, I don't know if I'd have lasted. She probably would have fired me. So loads of top moments this week. I think there was at least one sort of great bit of info that we uncovered for each of the candidates this time. And they all seemed to like having that little relaxing moment after their interview with each other in that waiting area, just to chill. So an interesting round of interviews, a bit more positive. But now I have a bit of anxiety because I know what's coming next.
Yes, indeed, it is that time. Potentially the last time this series, we'll see. For the elevator pitch, this is where myself and Greer have 30 seconds to impress you, the listeners, and maybe Lord Sugar, of whatever we are presenting. And this time, we are presenting an interview-style business plan, because that is what the candidates have done. So I have selected 4 random areas that we need to cover within our... I'm still deciding whether it's 30 or 60 seconds because it's quite a lot. But my 4 categories are numbers for Claude, innovation for Mike, competitors for Linda, and who you are doing it for Claudine.
Okay.
So those are the 4 criteria that you have to have in your pitch. And I think because it's their business plans, I think we're going to leave it open to something you're passionate about. So we choose.
That sounds good.
And bearing in mind, I have not thought about anything yet.
Okay. I like how we've matched up our 4 things to talk about relating to the advisors of Lord Sugar. That is good. But now I've got to think of a quick business idea.
I think we're going to do 40 seconds, so you have 10 seconds for each section.
Okay, that's
good. Which is
good.
going to be havoc.
Yeah, this is hard.
Okay, I'm going to press you for time.
Okay. It's not. I've got an idea. It's not a clever business, but it's a business. Is yours going to be clever or what?
I don't know. I don't really have an idea, so it's gonna. You go first, and whatever happens will happen.
Okay.
But remember, you gotta be super fast. 10 seconds for each section.
That's hard. All right, I'm gonna give it my best shot.
If you run out of time, it's tough.
Okay.
Okay. Right, Greer. Just to remind you, the 4 categories: numbers, innovation, competitors. Who are you doing it for?
Okay.
So your 40 seconds starts now.
Right, so my business plan is all about creating what is going to be known as the Subway, but for breakfast pastries. So it'll be personalised croissants is what we're going with. For Claude, the numbers are low running costs on the croissants. You can create food quite easily with sort of low numbers, and then upsell high with lots of different toppings and drinks and things like that. Innovation is around personalization. Mike will like it because you could have various different toppings, various different fillings. You could even order via an app, something like that. Competitors, it will be Pret, obviously,
Time.
And I'm doing it for myself. That was so hard. No time. And I'm hungry now.
That was intense. So
It was.
Sorry, numbers were quite cheap things.
Cheap.
Yes,
I started by saying cheap margins or something, and I was like, no, that's not what I mean. I mean that buying basic ingredients and upselling it is a good way to go. Yeah, innovation. personalised toppings, order on an app or something so you can click which toppings you like. Competitors, I was going to say Pret, mainly because they do good croissants and good breakfast.
And you're doing it for yourself.
Doing it for myself, doing it for everybody who loves croissants. Yeah, definitely.
Nice. All right, I've got a lot to live up to. Okay.
All right, let me get the timer ready. So we're doing 40 seconds.
40 seconds.
So, James, you've got to tell us your business plan, numbers, innovation, competitors, and who you're doing it for in 40 seconds. Are you ready?
I am.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so my business plan is going to be a technology platform for sim racing enthusiasts. So basically, it's innovative because you need a quick way to organise a league of races, and you can do this via our platform. Really low hosting costs, and we'll get most of the money for community groups and advertising. Competitors, I think there's some Playhem is a brand, I think, might be a competitor, and I'm doing this for the gaming community.
Wow. 3, 2.
And Formula One fans.
There you go. That is your time. I like that. We've gone very different. I like how you said, let's do something we're passionate about. I chose croissants and you were Formula One racing. That checks out.
Yeah. And gaming, yeah.
And gaming.
Don't know if it's a great idea, but, that's what I came up with.
I like it. So we had, competitors. We've both name-checked someone who we're doing it for. I like that. Innovation. It is very innovative. Numbers. What were you doing for numbers?
I said it's cheap to host.
Cheap to host. There you go.
And I said we could make a little bit of money off of the groups using it, but most of the money off of advertising.
Yes.
So,
that's good.
If you're doing a league, you'll get like £10 a head, but you'll get £1,000 from the latest racing wheel to be sponsored on the site.
See, I like it. That's good. Oh, they're both very different ideas. So I'm intrigued to see who the listeners of Back to the Boardroom think will have won this week. So please do let us know at Back to the Boardroom on Instagram. Say Greer or James. And are we going to be doing an elevator pitch next week? Who knows? We'll have to see. And I'm really looking forward to knowing who has won the elevator pitch competition this year. And now let's go back to the boardroom, where it's a bit different this week because we've got the advisors in there to begin with, and there aren't any numbers really to go over. So I like this one because you can see they're chatting as if they're, having a drink together or having a coffee, and they're saying what they really think, and Karen and Tim get involved, and it's a bit of fun, really.
Yeah, exactly. You could tell Lord Sugar's a bit more relaxed and having a bit of a joke with his advisors, friends maybe.
Definitely. Yeah. And they fed back, I guess, everything that we uncovered in the interviews. So we've kind of been through it all, really. But it was interesting to hear that Tim and Karen as well were surprised by some of the findings, like the speculative designs as one thing. And also we found out a bit more like Dean has a partner in the business and things like that we hadn't previously heard. So it is a bit more of a businessy discussion this week.
Indeed. As well as Alan, Lord Sugar, proposing a chow mein bagel.
Yes.
And I did how about that, Claude? No.
That was it. No. One thing I did notice is severely off topic is there are a lot of very whitened teeth in that boardroom this week. They were bright white. Linda has just pearly whites going on. That's something that I noticed. I appreciate you're the one that looks for detail. I just noticed their dental hygiene.
Nice. Very nice. I don't think too much to report from their discussion that we hadn't already covered. Apart from the buy was, I don't know, the Lord Sugar's buy seemed a bit insincere.
Interesting.
I wanted him to be more friendly.
Yeah, he had to keep his business persona going, didn't he?
Indeed. But then the advisors are out, and then the candidates come back in for one final I say final kind of discussion, but there wasn't really much discussion.
No, it was more of a, okay, he'd made up some of his mind purely based on their business proposals and whether he could work with it or get behind it or think it's a good idea. So there wasn't really a grilling because they hadn't done much. There was a bit of a discussion, but then he obviously had to whittle down to two people, and I always thought Dean was going to be one of the last people there. Anissa, we have spoken about, and we've seen Lord Sugar really seem to like her and her business, which I didn't necessarily understand because she seemed to have gotten into some interesting moments during the tasks. So I thought it could have been Amber Rose that had stayed, but I did think Jordan, his business wasn't going to go this time because maybe he was just starting out. And Chisola, I don't think they didn't really like her idea, and it didn't have as much potential as the others. Yeah. So I guess it was between pizza and bubble tea for that last slot.
I don't want to gloat, but I said Dean and Anissa as soon as they got into the boardroom.
And Dean and Anissa are people that we have picked actually on our predictions, so I'm quite impressed by our thoughts. But we have done a lot of predictions, and a lot of them have been wrong as well. So
indeed, and it was another plot twist, which. Yeah, was interesting. Was Jordan basically got a kind of winning offer, semi?
Yeah,
sort of.
It seemed a bit interesting, didn't it? It seemed like he had written his personal details on a napkin and like slid it over the desk. It was a bit odd. But yeah, he's never done that before. And I have thought previously, that he'd liked some of the candidates, but there was very much that like, no, this is the process, even though I liked you, it fair's fair sort of thing. So it was the first time we saw him be a little bit more lenient, I guess. Maybe he really saw something in Jordan. Maybe he was interested in his idea, but at the same time, he might have just really liked Jordan as a person, and maybe there's a job offer or something in it in the future for him at Lord Sugar's business.
Exactly, yeah. But there we go. We weren't kept waiting in suspense. It was quite quick, actually. Whittled down to Dean and Anissa.
Yes.
And I will move swiftly on to predictions. I won't go through a complete rundown. I'll save that for maybe next week. But I wanted to take a look because we made 3 winner predictions. We made a blind prediction on before the start of the show. We made a prediction after the end of week 1, I believe, and then we made a prediction halfway through. So the prediction halfway through, we'll get that out of the way because that was a rubbish. I said Mia, you said Max. That was completely thrown out the window. I don't even know who got further. I think Mia might have got further by a week.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
Just 1 week.
However, our prediction after the first episode was I predicted Dean to win, and yourself, Greer, you predicted Anissa. So
it's going to be an interesting one.
Whatever happens, one of us will be right. And the final one, the lucky dip. So I predicted Jordan to win, and you predicted Max also, which obviously both are off the cards. But I predicted Fred to be a finalist, Frederick, and you predicted Dean. So either you predicted the correct winner-up on your lucky runner-up on your lucky dip, or the correct winner.
I'm very happy with that.
So, yeah, good work. We'll dive into the other predictions, as I said, next week. But there we go. One of us will be right.
Yes. But one thing we can find out now this week, and it's the reason that everybody listens to this podcast, is what was the secretary doing at this really sort of big moment for the candidates? What was she up to?
So I actually don't know what she was up to, but interestingly enough, we have actually seen a different shot of the secretary. We've actually seen the desk from a different angle, so you can actually see the secretary. And I must say, I'm pretty disappointed. I don't know if you can guess what I'm disappointed about. Any guesses?
No, tell us.
I can't remember the acronym. 2 seconds. So I believe the acronym is DSE, and it stands for Display Screen Equipment as part of the health and safety regulations. And the screen, so if I'm sitting here, her screen was like this, parallel, and surely that's got to create back and neck pain. And I probably don't think, I'm not a health and safety expert, but I doubt that would pass a risk assessment. So
you are definitely correct. Must have been all for TV.
Indeed, that was my secretary trivia this week. I do have one final bit of trivia, as I'm always looking out for brands, and even though they blurred the brand out, it was a very distinctive laptop. I don't know if you saw it when Jordan was using it. I think it was Jordan. It was I think it's Lenovo, the brand now. The ThinkPad, very distinctive. If you know the ThinkPad, it's normally the black laptop, and it's got like a red squidgy bit in the middle, which is the dot mouse. Yeah.
That is some good spotting there.
There we go. Maybe the last brand watch of the season. Oh, and sorry, one last thing. Prediction-wise. I didn't expect it, but we got a solitary hour this week, 6 a.m., where they had 2 hours to lie in.
Yes, exactly. Okay, I'm intrigued by how the hours prediction has gone this year. I feel like my guess is severely out the window, but you could still be on for a winner.
Spoilers, I still haven't done my homework and recounted episode 3, so I'll need to do that before next week. And now for my favourite part of the show, it's the Apprentice News with Greer, and we have a special correspondent.
We do. So firstly, before I dive into some news this week, Adam has sent us in some clarification around last week's task, which is really interesting. So he found online that Mia posted on her Instagram story on Thursday after the show that had aired that the designs and the ideas that she was coming up with for menswear were actually meant to be marketed as unisex clothing, but the producers later stepped in. So it's interesting, isn't it, the sort of amount of producer involvement, because ultimately the reason that she left was because the designs and the idea for menswear were just too out there. So is that fair? It's a weird one, isn't it?
I know, it seems a bit... I don't think that's fair.
No.
If that is true, I don't have any reason to doubt its authenticity. But yeah, it seems a bit like too much involvement of who wins and who doesn't for the sake of TV. But
yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, that's when we have to remember it's a reality TV show, isn't it, really, rather than a business show. But yeah, I felt sorry for Mia, and this sort of adds to it because she was a great candidate, and hope she's doing well now anyway.
Absolutely.
So the next bit of news I've got for you this week is just a little look at the lives of some of the associates of Lord Sugar. I thought it would be interesting to find out a little bit more about them. So firstly, obviously Claude, he is a fan favourite here on Back to the Boardroom. He has recently done an interview, and I thought I'd give a little bit of a backstory into his life quickly. He's been married to his wife Thelma since 1976, and they live in Mill Hill, London, and they have 2 sons, Anthony and Alex, who are both in their 40s now, and they have 5 grandchildren, which I thought was very cute. But it's interesting that in the interview, he talks about how he was as a business person and in the business world. He says, these are his words, "If you look back at me, I was a nutcase because I just wanted to work. I didn't want to take a holiday because I was worried that somebody might get ahead of me. I didn't think I was making any sacrifices, and the problem was that my wife took the brunt of looking after the children and I took my path and was lucky enough to have Thelma to do that," which I thought is very nice, but at the same time, interesting to hear that Claude obviously had that, if I take time off, someone's going to get ahead of me, that really high-pressured sort of business feeling. But yeah, a bit of an insight into Claude's own business life away from Lord Sugar and The Apprentice. I also found an article about Mike, who is, again, a fan favourite. He always goes the extra mile. It's an interesting one because it gives a bit of information about his journey in business too. So he co-founded Shortlist Media, which publishes Stylist magazine, and he stepped down as the chairman in 2018 before moving to the Evening Standard as its first ever chief executive. However, he had to leave the role in 2020 because he had what sounds like a really awful illness, and it was, in the interview, it says he ate a chicken Caesar wrap and contracted salmonella, and it quickly mutated into typhoid, and he was in hospital for a month and recuperating for several months after that, which sounds horrendous. But yeah, an interesting one that he was the first ever chief executive at the Evening Standard, but I guess didn't last in that role for a while because of the the not so good hospital stay.
But good to hear. He seems fully back to it with his investigative findings.
It definitely. I wonder if he had any anxiety around going to eat a pizza or drink some of that bubble tea. Who knows? But I always like finding out a bit more about the people that we see on our TV screens. So a little bit about Claude and Mike for you this week.
Fantastic. And that was the news.
That was the news. And now it is time for our check-in with previous candidates from last year, because James is going to tell us where are they now. Who was in the final few? There must have been a couple of people. There was
5, and 3 of them did not make it. And we'll start with the first one, which was, there was a possibility of him making it, but he chose not to give up 50% of his business, and that is Paul, the dentist, Dr. Paul. So I couldn't actually find anything on Instagram for Paul, but he is still running, I think it's Vichy Dental, his business, that has 2 practices, I believe, in Leeds, and it looks like it's going strong. They're using a lot of the word apprentice on their site. And I thought I'd point out that obviously haven't verified any of this, but it's got a 5-star rating on Google. 135 reviews, 5 stars. So I presume that means there is no rating that isn't a 5-star. Otherwise, it would be like 4.9.
Exactly.
So that is pretty impressive. That is Paul doing well with the dental business. We move on to our second candidate that didn't make the cut, and that was one of everyone's favourite, Trey, which we saw actually this season. So I picked out a post from him. This was a few weeks ago on International Women's Day. He posted to honour his wife. And what I thought was quite interesting was he says his wife, a soon-to-be mother. as well as many other compliments, and a bit about pregnancy and it being a test of resilience for obviously the woman carrying the child, the couple, the physical, emotional, mental toll. So interesting obviously news that Trey will be a dad.
Congratulations to Trey. That's exciting.
Yeah. And then our final candidate that didn't make it to the final was Florence Edwards. And I picked out a post, less words this, from her Instagram. Just says January, wholesomeness, loveliness and friendliness. So there's various pictures, couple with her dog, which will definitely please Joe. Funnily enough, it looks like they went for food in some restaurant with fellow contestants Rachel. I can't remember the name of the mummy motivator.
Sam,
yes. Posting in a restaurant with fellow contestants Rachel and Sam, so she's obviously caught up with them. Some time with what I presume is one of her children, making cupcakes, because who doesn't like making a chocolate cupcake? Also another one with Rachel doing some sort of gym or Pilates session. So definitely keeping in touch with those fellow candidates. So yeah, a very brief update, but those are some updates from the 3 that didn't make it through the interviews.
well, that is the interviews all sorted and dissected, and I can't believe we're nearly coming to the end of Back to the Boardroom and The Apprentice for season 19. Next week, it'll be that final showdown which sees Anissa and Dean go head to head. Will it be Indian-inspired pizzas, or will it be air conditioning that Lord Sugar wants to invest in? You'll have to tune in on next Thursday to find out, and then obviously join us back here for a final rundown of how that final went. Now, James, do you have a final thought for us this week?
I do. So if Amber Rose can write on her CV the winner of The Apprentice 2025, I'm going to say that, Greer, you're the winner of the winner prediction 2025. So that hopefully means I'll win.
Oh, damn it. Okay, I thought you were manifesting for me, but no, tactics. Tactics until the end.
Yeah, look forward to next week. See you then.
Bye.